Today we're going to be talking about speech and speech presentation. I don't think there is anyone out there who doesn't agree that the ability to speak well in public is a tremendous asset. I'm not suggesting that only great speakers make it to the top of business. However, the converse also applies. A lot of people have risen further than their brighter and more talented peers simply because of their ability to perform in front of a group. So if you are a private introverted individual, you might want to brush up on your public speaking skills. Some of the following points have helped me with my speaking and my speeches, and I think that they would help you too. Number 1, it's okay to be nervous. Fear of public speaking, I'm told, is the number 1 business phobia. Anyone who isn't a little edgy before a speech is either in self-denial or about to fall on his or her face. Nerves make you alert, but they also force you to prepare, and preparation makes all the difference. I've seen the most timid, colorless people dazzle an audience because they knew their subject. I don't think there's such a thing as fear of public speaking. I think it's really a fear of not knowing your material and someone might find out. Number 2, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. The reason ballet dancers work so hard in rehearsal is so that their 20 minutes on stage gives the appearance that they are hardly working. The same applies to public speaking. The effortlessness of a speech is directly proportional to how much effort the speaker puts into it. So it's important to plan what you're going to say and also to rehearse it. Try your speech on family and friends. Try it in front of a mirror. As Mark Twain was fond of saying, it takes 3 weeks to prepare a good informal speech. And he was probably underestimating. Number 3, you could never have too many stories, anecdotes. When in doubt, try telling a story. Even when your delivery leaves something to be desired, if it has a beginning, middle, and end, people tend to listen. Anecdotes can be current news or they can be appropriated from history. Believe me, if you can draw an interesting parallel between the Trojan War and competition in your industry, the audience won't care that the story is 2,500 years old. 4, don't overstay your welcome. Franklin D. Roosevelt had a 3-step formula for speeches. Be sincere, be brief, be seated. You cannot imagine how much better a 60-minute speech sounds if it takes only 30 minutes to deliver it, or how much your audience will appreciate it if you pull off this achievement. When in doubt about leaving a point in or taking it out, choose the latter. Speak, don't read is the last one. Reading a fully scripted speech is not really public speaking. It's more like public reading. You're much better off working from notes that hit the main points and cue to insert your off-the-cuff remarks. This forces you to make eye contact with the audience and think about what you're saying. This way you appear in complete command of the subject, and you sound like a real normal person. Alan H. Morse, in The Thinking Pattern of Adults, gives this sequence of 4 points that listeners should follow before they decide to act, that listeners actually do follow before they decide to act. The first thing is to make me interested. And the person says, okay, I'll invest some time in you. The second one is, convince me there's a need. And the person says to themselves, maybe I could make a few adjustments. The third point is, satisfy me that your information is going to make sense. And the person thinks, I understand how that will work. And finally, the fourth point is, make me visualize the new situation. And the person thinks to themselves, I can see myself doing just what he said. In order to be a good speaker, we must know how we communicate. Communication is the exchange of thoughts, messages, and ideas by speech, writing, or signals. In order to communicate, that is expressing ourselves in such a way that one is readily and clearly understood. We cannot not communicate. We are always communicating. There are 2 kinds of communication. 1, verbal, which is the spoken or written communication and turning thoughts into words. 2 is nonverbal, which includes all the ways we communicate that are not written or spoken: body language, posture, poise, clothes, and grooming, how we walk, how we move, how we sit. our attitude, our tone of voice, what we eat, what we like to do, and on and on. About 65% of communication is nonverbal. There are barriers to successful communication. A speaker and members of the audience may occupy different worlds, see reality through different paradigms, but there is always some part of each world that touches the other. Where the worlds overlap and are shared, we find what we call common ground. Effective speakers who reach out emotionally and intellectually into the worlds and paradigms of an audience expand this common ground by bringing the audience further into their world. Effective speakers know that, however important their own message and objectives may be, they cannot share their ideas nor reach their speaking goal without understanding and meeting the ideas and needs of their audience. In each audience, we try to identify general age and gender, education and occupations, values and opinions, how much they know about the speaker and the speaker's topic, and attitudes toward the speaker and the topic. Even in-house audiences, where we may assume we share common goals, will differ individuality in experience, attitudes, and interests. These differences will affect their plans for reaching these goals, which in turn will affect how they hear our message. The audience is the focus of all effective presentations. Most speakers pass through 3 phases on their way to excellence: self-focused, content-focused, and audience-focused. The most important thing is to find out all we can about our audience and be audience-focused. This information will help us to decide what our message is and how to shape it, a realistic objective for this presentation, the vocal tone to use, our verbal language, what aspects of our subject to emphasize, and which will lead us to our choice of main points. In order to collect information about our audience, consult the person who requested the talk. Speak to people who may be in the audience. Refer to past experience of similar audiences or to someone with the same experience. And be flexible and prepared to make adjustments on the spot. Our aim as speakers is to balance the needs of the audience with the needs and purposes of your speech. Some of the things that have helped me in my speaking are transitional phrases and attention-getting devices. Some transitional phrases might be, now I want to discuss, it has been my experience that, now let us look at, research has shown that, it is well known by specialists such as, and those usually are great transitional phrases. But tension-getting devices are things like a startling fact, a humorous story, but it must be relevant to what you're talking about, a joke, but only if you know how to tell a joke, a quotation if the source is respected and known by people, an anecdote if relevant and appealing, reference to the occasion, and an offbeat question. This gets the audience thinking and can be a good opening and is very useful if you have a hostile audience. To feel comfortable with speech giving, you need to have some strategies. The most important one is preparation. Through preparation, you are working with the talk and you are sure of what you're going to be talking about. And it's the major cause of speaking anxiety if you are not prepared. Rehearse. Adequate rehearsal cannot be overemphasized. Rehearsal should always be done out loud, just as you intend to speak it. Do not memorize. Familiarize yourself with the organization and progression of your talk, and speak it aloud at every opportunity, as you dress, undress, drive, or walk. Set realistic goals. Limit goals to your present skill level. Understand that becoming a good speaker is a step-by-step process, and you'll improve with each performance. Imagine the worst that can happen and decide how to deal with it. It's not what happens to us, but how we respond to what happens that impresses an audience. If we stay cool and respond honestly and naturally, trusting the humanity of an audience, disasters can become triumphs. Visualization. Rehearse as athletes do. Create a mind picture of a time when you were very successful in something that you did, or just fantasize such a time. See, hear, touch, and smell every detail of that time, and experience again the wonderful I can do it feeling that it evoked. Bring these feelings into the present and use them to fuel your energy and vitality right now. Trust your audience. Most audiences want to like the speaker, if only to spare themselves boredom or embarrassment. Embody the feeling of authority and confidence. The philosopher Spinoza said that creating the outward signs of a state of mind will create the emotion within. Vitality, enthusiasm for your subject, sharing with your audience, all expressed in your tone of voice, facial expression, and body language, will become your real feelings of self-worth and confidence. And self-talk. Create your own pep talk. A message to yourself can complete the previous step. It's also a reminder that, with practice, can trigger your previous visualization. It might go something like this. I'm an expert on my subject. I'm very well prepared. I like this audience, and I really want to talk to them. When you're ready to deliver your message, you want to know how to keep your audience's attention. The first thing that's very important is enunciation. Use your lips and your tongue, and care for each syllable to give each word full measure. Mumbling, one of the most common speaking habits, makes it difficult to understand and robs us of the authority and the interest of the audience. Slow down, particularly those who normally speak fast. Audiences process what we're saying a few beats after we speak the words. If our pace is too fast for them, they give up and probably will tune out. Pitch. Keep it in the middle range. Anxiety and excitement tend to raise the vocal pitch, and high-pitched voices, especially if they sound out of control, are hard to listen to. Emphasis. One of the most useful strategies. It helps to chunk down different sections of our talk and creates variety and points up what we consider our most important points. Pauses. These are as important as what we say. They help us to pace our talk. They recall audience attention when it begins to wander. They give the audience time to catch up with what we are saying and establish the speaker's ease, confidence, and authority. A pause seems much longer to the speaker than to the audience. Tones vary. They go from light to serious, intense to relaxed, to keep the audience interested. And finally, emotion. Don't be afraid to use it. It can be a powerful tool and helps to make us memorable. But the emotion must be real and sincerely felt. TV has taught the audience to spot faking and dishonesty. I'd like to say a few things about the lectern and the microphone. Whenever possible, it's better to come out from behind the lectern. We are much more interesting and dynamic when the audience can see all of us, and we are free to move around and get closer to the audience. When using a lectern is unavoidable, such as at dinners or before large audiences, or where it provides the only reading light for our notes or microphone, we have to use more vocal and emotional energy to reach out to the audience. On those times, it's necessary to check the height of the lectern compared with our own so that we don't disappear behind it or are forced to bend our necks like swans to see our notes. Strategies to use: a stool or box as an extra platform, a thick book, or books to raise the height of the lectern. At the same time, check the lectern light and ask for a new bulb when necessary. Check the microphone beforehand and practice using it. 90% of the microphones provided for meetings are faulty, or the volume cannot be controlled externally, or there is no one to control them. Whenever possible, depending on the size of the room, the audience, and our ability to project our voice, do not use a microphone unless it is the clip-on lavalier type. Microphones attached to lecterns are filled with problems. They're hard to adjust to our height and optimum distance for speaking and impede our eye contact and freedom to connect with our audience. Adjust the mic to chin level from 3 to 8 inches away and speak directly into the mic. Turning the head results in loss of sound. Use vocal energy. Speak as you would without a mic, even though you have one. Adjusting to this volume is what makes it so necessary to practice using it ahead of time. And always ask for use of a lavalier clip-on microphone or invest in buying your own. We have established that we are always communicating, and a greater percentage of our communication is more nonverbal than verbal. Actually, the breakdown is 7% words, 38% tone of voice, and body language accounts for 55%. This suggests that nonverbal language accounts for 93% of the impression we make on our audience. In all speaking situations, the body can be a friend or an enemy. Sometimes it's a traitor when our body language contradicts the words that we say. Our body language is mostly unconscious, outside our awareness, and so speaks more loudly and more honestly than our more aware verbal message. The conscious use of assertive, confident body language profoundly affects our feelings of assurance, authority, and control. A speaker's stance is so important. Always stand in a centered position before the audience. Feet shoulder-width apart or a little less, weight evenly balanced side to side and front to back. Relax your arms to their sides. This is the position to start with and return to. It does not mean we could never move from it. Too much moving and pacing can be distracting, but change of pace in relation to the audience can be helpful. It can help define a new segment of the talk or change of mood. Express speaker energy and re-energize the audience with a new physical viewpoint. And it gets closer to a different segment of the audience for a while, a useful tactic with a restless or inattentive group, along with other strategies and changes. In general, it's better to move during a verbal pause. We always want to speak directly to an audience, and it's difficult to do this while we're walking. At meetings and conferences, we may be expected to speak while sitting, though we should not be afraid to break this pattern if it seems not advantageous to us. If we must sit or choose to, please avoid slouching. It impedes our breathing, our energy, and our authority. Both feet on the floor and a comfortably erect posture, base of the spine to the back of the chair, top of the spine away from the chair gives best support and good appearance. We still need vocal and emotional energy and focus on our audience. Be especially aware of the people on either side of you who are out of direct range of your eye contact. And beware of your body language, such as fidgeting with pencils or notes, leaning back with hands behind the head, or staying duped up over your notes. And eye contact, making real eye contact with the audience, really seeing individuals, is essential for effective speaking. It is our bridge to the audience, creating a rapport and warmth. And it helps to give what we say strength and validity. It helps us to know the effect we are having on the audience and to respond accordingly, especially if the audience shows signs of inattention. How long to look at an individual might be part of our intuition, sensitivity. Holding eye contact for too long might make a North American audience uncomfortable. It isn't how long we hold contact, but that we do hold contact and the quality of it. Sincerity, being real in the moment, being truly present and responding in what matters. This is what matters. This is called listening with the eyes. We need to look at people in every segment of our audience. That is one reason why moving can sometimes be useful to make it easier to see people in different areas. The key is to effective gestures and relaxation to allow them to be spontaneous and natural to us. Commitment to our audience and our subject rather than to ourselves and our performance is a secret. As neck, shoulders, arms, and hands are physically connected, tension in any one of them will constrict free movement in all. We need to practice conscious techniques to promote such relaxation. Small inhibited gestures, and generally gestures below the waist levels, are ineffective and lack authority. Something that has helped me acquire the voice that I wanted to have, I'd like to share with you. Get a tape recording of the voice you would like to have. Listen to radio personalities, television personalities, and listen to see what voice you might like to emulate. It must, of course, be a voice that lies within your range and availability. You will need a second tape recorder and a blank tape. Spend 5 to 15 minutes each day working with the tape in the following way. 1. Listen to a sentence on tape 1. 2. Speak that sentence onto the blank tape, matching pitch, tone, and rate as close as you can. 3. Wind back both tapes. Listen to tape 1, then tape 2. 4. If you are not satisfied, do it again. 5. If you are satisfied, go to the next sentence. Listen again. Then put both sentences together and tape them. And finally, keep the sound of this new voice strongly in mind all day and practice using it, particularly on the telephone. Put your tape recorder next to your telephone and tape your end of the conversation. Listen to it at the end of each day and compare it with the tape that you have made for your model. Other people will not consciously be aware that you are taping the telephone conversation on your end. But if you persevere, and the process takes several months to produce results generally, you can form new vocal habits and greatly improve your voice. Your presentation module will help you greatly with this. The objective of a presentation is to make people think, understand other viewpoints, and promote some action to do something. As a presenter, you sell yourself and your ideas. The outline that I provided is designed to help eliminate fear and gain recognition as a competent speaker. You must first develop the attitude that speaking will give you an opportunity to excel and grow. You are in control of yourself and your material, and you are prepared. You will be a great speaker. The principles. The purpose of a speech is to persuade. Perceptions are more powerful than facts. People are inundated with information, and, unfortunately, people forget fast. Based on my experience, it takes approximately 7 or 8 hours to prepare a 20-minute talk. It takes 8 hours for an advertising agency to tape a 30-second commercial. As a rule of thumb among speakers, is 1 hour of preparation for every 1 or 2 hours of speech. I like to quote Dale Carnegie when he says, "When dealing with people, remember, you are not dealing with creatures of logic, but with creatures of emotion." J.P. Morgan adds, "A person usually has 2 reasons for doing something, one that sounds good and a real reason." As a speaker with a message to transmit, we need to know as much as possible about our audience. Beliefs, values, knowledge, experience, interests, and attitudes. We must consider where there may be different from our own and shape our message so that our audience can receive it comfortably and accurately. Number 1, review your purpose. Put in writing what the employer wants so that you are on the same wavelength as them. What do you want to accomplish by giving your presentation? What will the audience do as a result of it? 2, review your audience. What type of audience will you have? What are their interests and backgrounds? 3, prepare your main points. Will they match your objective? Think about your beginning and your end. 4, prepare your research. Use personal experience, sources such as business journals, newspaper articles, and books. Use examples, comparisons, quotations, findings, and visuals to support your points. 5, prepare, review, and summary. Outline and organize to see if what you have done is well organized, and always use your own material. 6, prepare your script with opening and closing. 7, I can't say this one enough. Practice, practice, practice. Read out loud. Tape record your voice. Do this until you like your voice. 8, improve on what you now have. Do this speech for someone you know, or in front of a mirror. Listen for suggestions. Is it long? Is it short? Is it how you want it to sound if you were in the audience? 9, prepare your visuals. Be sure these are professionally done and then practice with these. 10, check your timing, fine-tune, and go. The most help that I feel that I can be to you in the speech presentation module is to work with you on your word exercises. In training hundreds of people to do television commercials and auto show work, I have found these exercises to be invaluable. So I'd like to go and do them with you as well. When you go to the word exercise page and say with meaning the following words, you will get really good help in getting good voice quality. Feathery, vibrating, crackle, flow, ding-dong, sad, happy, soft, ache, no, burst, cut, breeze, argue, pitch, ooze, flutter, cloud, thrilled, hate, love, wonderful, fantastic, unforgivable, believe, you, tremble, proud, disappointed, approval, bite, heart, delicious. These are very hard to say, but if you say them with meaning, you'll start saying all of your words with meaning and your speeches will be more effective. On the next page, you'll see a big baby buggy with rubber buggy bumpers. I'm going to say these one by one and try to say them as I do to improve your speech abilities. A big baby buggy with rubber buggy bumpers. She sells seashells by the seashore. Double bubble gum bubbles double. Each sixth chick sat on a stick. Of all the saws I ever saw, I never saw a saw that saws like that saws. 6 slim, sick, slender saplings. Eat fresh fish free at the fish fry. 66 sick chicks. Poor Theophilus Thistle, the thistle sifter. Lemon liniment. Truly rural. Strange strategic statistic. Tie twigs to the tree twig. Round and round the rugged rock. 3 gray geese in the green grass. These may seem silly, but they work. Hundreds of would-be actors have practiced these for years before attempting auditions for screen parts. Practice reading this in 30 seconds. I bought a batch of baking powder and baked a batch of biscuits. I brought a big basket of biscuits back to the bakery and baked a basket of big biscuits. Then I took the big basket of biscuits and the basket of big biscuits that was next to the big biscuits and mixed the big biscuits with the basket of biscuits that was next to the big biscuits and put a bunch of biscuits from the basket into a box. Then I took the box of mixed biscuits and a biscuit mixer and biscuit basket and brought the basket of biscuits and the box of mixed biscuits and the biscuit mixer to the bakery and opened a can of sardines. As you can tell, I even have to take time doing this, but as you practice, you will get perfect. The next one is, a tutor who tutored the flute tried to tutor 2 tutors to toot. Said the toot to the tutor, is it easier to toot or to tutor 2 tutors to toot? Theophilus Thistle, the thistle sifter, sifted a sieve of unsifted thistles. If Theophilus Thistle, the thistle sifter, sifted a sieve of unsifted thistles, where is the sift of unsifted thistles Theophilus Thistle, the thistle sifter, sifted? The next one is very difficult to do because there's so many P's, but it was an actual Macaulay's commercial. Percy Potter is a pretty practical person. That's Percy's pet peeve. Every Christmas, Percy painstakingly pursues the paper and pounds the pavement, hoping to pick up a practical present for his precious Penelope. You see, Penelope is Percy's pen pal. She's from Pompano. Well, this Christmas will prove to be perfect for Percy and Penelope because Percy's participating in Macaulay's practically perfect Christmas promotion. Macaulay's has plenty of polite people who have practical and partly practical presents for almost every precious person. Because Macaulay's peddles more than just pads, pencils, and paper punches. They've got printing calculators, padded appointment books, pint-sized puzzles, and a lot more perfectly pleasing presents to pick from. Percy picked an appropriate pair of ballpoint pens for Penelope, a perfect present for pen pals. Not only does Macaulay's pride themselves in practical presents, they're proud of their practical prices, too. And that's important to Percy, because Percy's not just practical, he's the prince of the penny pinchers. The most important thing when you want to give a speech and when you want to do image consulting in general is motivation. In order to become motivated, you need to be self-confident. My favorite example is the story of Peter Jennings. In 1965, Peter Jennings was named the youngest anchor in network history at the age of 26. With minimal experience and no journalism degree, his colleagues dismissed him as nothing more than a pretty face and dubbed him Stanley Stunning. Peter Jennings was a high school dropout. As a child, Peter Jennings was not motivated. He was dismissed from several schools. His father discovered that Jennings liked to teach when he caught him teaching his 8-year-old sister to smoke. At 19, at his father's intervention, Jennings took employment at the Royal Bank of Canada and did not like it. With his father's name and clout, Jennings got a position at CFIR in a small town named Brookville. As Jennings gained confidence and recognition, he moved to several larger stations and went on to anchor Canada's first national news on a commercial network. He got the attention of ABC News, who brought him to the United States. Due to his lack of confidence and lack of qualifications, he left the news anchor job, and ABC put him into the field as a reporter. This move as a reporter, which someone might think is a demotion, was a positive time for Jennings, because he at this time in his life made the decision to become serious as a reporter. He covered the 1968 presidential campaign, went to Rome and to Lebanon to become the first network correspondent based full-time in an Arab country. He took the opportunity to become an expert on the Arab perspective and gave insightful reports from the Mideast. His special on the Gulf crisis days before war broke out was the highest-rated news special in 18 years. There are endless stories about success people like Peter Jennings. What is important is that they became motivated. They made a decision. Invaluable to motivation are 10 things. Invaluable are: find something you love to do. Believe in yourself. Make a decision to do it. Think of your decision as an opportunity to make a difference. Develop a plan. Research your topic. Spend time grasping and understanding your research. Organize what you find. Know what you learn. And do it. The biggest problem with people is that they spend endless time thinking about what they would like to do. Quote, when I raise my children. Quote, when I get my degree. Quote, when I lose some weight. Quote, when I turn 40. The excuses just go on and on. Just do it.